Hi, I'm Sentire. Do you guys want to know a few fun facts about radiation that you can share with your friends during a party? Hey Tessa, did you know that there's no atmospheric shielding in space? Which means that space radiation is super dangerous for astronauts. Well, you came to the right place. Let's start by talking about those astronauts Jim was referring to. It is true that space has a lot of cosmic radiation which is dangerous to us, but did you know that the cosmic radiation can pass through your eyelids when they are closed? It is because of this that astronauts sometimes report seeing bright flashes before their eyes. Did you guys ever heard of Redditor? It was a popular energy drink in the 1920s. What made it so popular? Well, the fact that it was actually radioactive. Pretty rad, right? Can you imagine the thought process of a person in the 20s being like, so if a nuclear power plant produces a lot of energy, then this radioactive drink will also give me a lot of energy as well. Genius! Redditor is actually not as dangerous as I make it out to be. You could drink one of these and still be relatively okay. Around 20% of the radioactive particles stay in the body, where they latch onto your bones for more than 1,000 years. But whatever. The other 80% leaves your body relatively quickly. You just have to make sure that you don't drink too much of it. And that's exactly what Byers didn't do. Byers had a particular love for Redditor. He drank on average around 3 bottles of these bad boys every single day. In total he drank around 1,400 bottles in his entire life. Initially everything was okay, until his jawbone fell off. Turns out that the radiation in his body was literally rotting away his bones. He was also developing big gaping holes in his skull. When he died, his body was so radioactive that they had to bury him in a lead-lined coffin to prevent his body from poisoning the groundwater. He will also remain radioactive for at least another 1,500 years. But people in the past didn't only use radioactive material as a form of liquor, they also used it for other things like candy, toothpaste, makeup, condoms, etc. It was mainly used like a glow-in-the-dark kind of paint. It will also give you cancer, but whatever, if that's your thing, right? I won't judge. By the way, did you guys know that there's a lot of common household items that give you a small amount of radiation? It's not much, but you know, it's there. For instance, if you eat one banana, then it will give you around 1% of your average daily radiation exposure. It even got its own measurement. Bad. Banana equivalent dose. An actual informal measurement of ionizing radiation exposure. And before you start to get nervous about that basket of bananas you've got laying around, one chest x-ray is the equivalent of 70,000 bananas. So nothing to worry about. Right? I also hope that you don't smoke, because it turns out that tobacco has a high concentration of polonium-220, which is radioactive. A study shows that if you smoke for a long period of time, you receive a radiation dose equivalent to around 300 chest x-rays annually. But if lung cancer isn't enough for you, then you can try these radium brand cigarettes. These cigarettes contain the highly radioactive element radium. Unfortunately were these cigarettes only available in Germany from 1910 to 1915. They weren't around for long because nobody bought them. It turns out that radium is relatively expensive and nobody wanted to pay for them. By the way, are you planning to go on a vacation anytime soon? If yes, then it might be interesting to know that a flight from New York to London gives you a radiation dose equivalent of 1 chest x-ray. This is because high altitudes offer less atmosphere to shield you from the radiation. You know what also has little to no atmosphere? The moon. On July 20, 1996, the first man landed there and planted the American flag into the ground. But the ultraviolet radiation has over time turned the American flag into the French one. Grand Central Station in New York City used a lot of granite in its construction. Granite is also a particularly radioactive element. Grand Central Station is so big and used so much granite that it actually gives you a solid radiation dose when you pass through it. It even produces more radiation than what is allowed at a nuclear power plant. Now that we're talking about nuclear power plants, did you know that a nuclear power plant produces a lot less radiation than a regular coal power plant? This is because the burning of coal releases small amounts of radioactive particles into the air. Coal contains the elements uranium and thorium, which are both very radioactive elements. The exact amounts depends on the source of the coal, but they are usually in range of a few parts per million. This may not sound like much, until you realize that an average coal power plant burns several million tons of coal every year. That means that every single station creates ash containing around 5 to 10 tons of radioactive material. Multiply that by the number of stations worldwide, and the amount of nuclear waste produced is truly astonishing. Collectively, coal power plants have emitted more than 100 times the amount of radiation into the environment than all nuclear power plants combined. That's it for today, guys, but I want to ask something from you before you go. This is one of the first videos that I uploaded on this channel. I learn a lot from every video I make, but I still make mistakes. If you notice any mistake in this video, Could you let them know in the comment section? This way I can improve for future videos. Also, thanks for watching.